Hey, welcome back, folks. We're back for episode 36 of the Popcorn Square podcast, and this one is titled May the Force Be With Us, because May is upon us.
It's gonna be May.
I am Neff, joined with
Kage.
And Buttons.
Okay, let's talk about a couple of these films in May that we may be interested in. So we'll just go through some of the lists that we got here. First, we got The Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. Kingdom of Planet of the Apes, Tarot. I know that Kage is really interested in that one. The Strangers, Chapter 1, Buttons. This hit the nail on the head for you. A reimagining of The Strangers. So it's not a remake necessarily, and it's not a sequel. It's a reimagining of that film, if you guys remember that. Furiosa, Mad Max Saga. I'm excited about that. Garfield movie, and If. And I know that Ryan Reynolds is in If.
Yeah, and they're pushing that one pretty hard. I would say looking at that, you've got the huge connection, the competition between the kids' movies, because Garfield obviously is going to be, a huge draw for the younger audience, and then If is going to be the competition. But honestly, if I'm comparing the two movies, it's going to be Ryan Reynolds. His brand of comedy and his typically nature of doing edgier movies, kids are going to be more interested in seeing that than in Garfield. And it wasn't that long ago that we had the Bill Murray Garfield. So, there's been a stretch of time. It's not like, I think those were done in like 2010 time frame. It hasn't been that long, but, for the most part, I think that because it's animated, that animated style of Garfield, I think you're going to run into more people wanting to go see If, more kids being interested in that one.
Yeah, and let me just kind of run through some of the release dates for you guys if you are interested in any of those titles that we spoke on. The Fall Guy, like I said, that's Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, May 3rd, 2024. Now, there's a couple more titles in the month of May, but we're really focusing on those ones that we found interest in. We have Tarot. I believe this is a horror film with Jacob Batalon and Alana Bowden. That comes out May 3rd as well. So we have some direct competition there with The Fall Guy and Tarot. That's going to be interesting. You got a kind of action comedy film, and then you have a horror film releasing on the same day. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Owen Teague, Freya Allen starring in that. That's May 10th. That's 1 week after Fall Guy and Tarot. So pretty busy there. And then we have If. Okay, we just talked about that. May 17th. That's May 17th. Strangers, May 17th as well. So you have animated, family, kids film, horror film. We have that dynamic there again. And
Drop
then
the kids off at Garfield or If, and then
you go watch,
Strangers.
that if you're into that. And then we have Furiosa, the Mad Max Saga film that I'm excited for, and that releases end of the month, May 24th, 2024.
I'm there.
We got Chris Hemsworth in there, Anna Taylor-Joy from The Menu, guys.
Yeah.
And she's been in other things as well.
Yeah, she was also Queen's Gambit.
There you go.
That was probably what launched
and
her.
very notable in that as well. That was a great show for her.
She won some awards for that.
Yeah, and then Garfield comes out May 24th as well. A lot of interesting dynamics there with the action, family, animated films, same release date.
And I think the reason why we're starting to see a lot more of those kids movies is because this is going to be right when school's getting out.
Yep.
End
Makes
of May is typically when the school year ends. So you're going to get those first starts of, oh, what do you want to do? Oh, let's go see a movie as a family. So you're going to see a lot more of those in the coming months. These kids' movies because of summer vacation.
And we have Chris Pratt in Garfield, so maybe he's playing the voice.
I believe he is the voice of Garfield.
So Chris Pratt is in that, if anybody's interested in that. You're not going to be seeing it on the screen. Obviously, he's doing voice over work, but if the voice sounds familiar, that is why it's Chris Pratt. And there's a Netflix movie, Jennifer Lopez and Simu Liu at Atlas. That's May 24th as well.
Yeah, that one is, I saw a preview for that on Netflix. It's kind of a space
interesting
looking movie. I saw the preview for it. It looks interesting, but I don't know I don't know how well it's going to do. She's done a couple movies now with Netflix, Mother and I can't remember the other one where she's kind of like a former assassin or something weird like that and has to protect her daughter. But
Interesting.
regardless of, and then the one where she's marrying somebody. But I think that the interesting thing for this month is we have a lot of heavy hitting titles. There's a lot of
We're starting
money.
to ramp up.
Yeah, we're starting to finally ramp up as far as, like I said, we're starting the summer.
Yeah.
For all the movies that their studios are thinking, this is the time that people are taking their kids to theaters. This is the time that, teenagers are getting involved. And again, those horror movies, that's probably targeted a little bit more towards your older teen audience or young adult who are getting out of college for summer break.
School's out, yeah.
Yeah, school's out.
That's
so-
why all of this stuff is ramping up.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting. I want to know what you guys think is going to be the movie that's going to perform the best for the month of May. Because you have so many big titles, it's going to be really difficult to say
Great
which
question.
one. And they're right back to back with each other, and some of them during the same week are going to be released. So for me, I'm going to say that I think it's going to be Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now, I am very excited for Fall Guy. That is definitely one I'm going to see in theaters, but just money-wise, me personally, I think it's going to be Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And if it's not Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, unfortunately, I think it's going to end up being a kids movie. I think it's going to be either Garfield or If. I'm leaning more towards If, though.
Interesting.
Just because of Ryan Reynolds.
I like your paradigm on that, only because I think in particular with the animated films, the reason why I think Garfield may work over If is because there's more familiarity with Garfield.
Right.
If is kind of like a new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
nobody's gonna know.
even in the trailer, it's obviously geared towards children, that demographic. But I thought the trailer was interesting enough that I would probably actually go watch it. Now, maybe not by myself, but if I took, my kid or something like that out there, I think it looked, because there were some scenes where I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny, like
Yeah,
you know what I
looks,
mean. So
it looks like a all ages.
right,
would
almost like a
enjoy.
Minions type thing. So it was like, it looks like it will work for that family dynamic well, and I think it could perform well because of that. I don't know what it does. I think it really depends on word of mouth because it's something new. Where Garfield, I would actually say, is generational.
Garfield, I
So
almost feel
that could work to a high level, especially if it's really good.
Yeah, and that'll play a big part with the story. Now, again, you have some big names as far as the voice actors go.
Chris Pratt's pretty well known at this point,
Right,
so
and I
I feel like
think
people are going to go and see it because
the-
it's going to have his humor in it. We know that.
Right.
Yeah, and to your point, it does kind of look very similar to like Secret Lives of Pets and those other animal movies that have come out, and those have done really well as far as like Zootopia and that kind of stuff, where you have the interaction between people and animals, and the animals being very human-like behaviors and that kind of.
Very interesting. Yeah, that was a great point too. And I have to agree. I reluctantly say, because I feel like Furiosa should do it, but I think Planet of the Apes has a huge following as well, and I think that's going to be the one that
I feel like
it does really well. But Furiosa is going to be almost like the niche action.
Quite a long time ago compared to Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, and I think the Furiosa thing is going to be a niche demographic of people, but people that are really into Mad Max. Once again, we were talking about something that is multi-generational. It's been around for 30,
Mel
40
Gibson
years.
was the
Right,
original,
the original, correct. And then we had, and I can't remember his name right now, Tom Hardy, right?
Yep.
Playing Mad Max when
And-
they brought back
and
Fury
Charlize
Road,
Theron.
correct, and Charlize Theron originally as Furiosa. And now we're seeing a prequel to that film before Mad Max actually comes into the picture, where you actually see Furiosa's upbringing. I believe they called
It's
it
her
The Green
origins.
Place in the
Yeah,
show.
Yeah,
it is,
yeah,
it
so
is
it's-
her. Yeah, it is her.
Not the show, excuse me, the film. So yeah, it's really her origin story. So I think that's an interesting dynamic. I would like to see that one outperform all this, because just you guys know, I'm a fan of the Mad Max stuff, but like just visually, it looks like they really put time in this. The acting looks awesome in the trailer. Obviously, from a cinematography standpoint, it's extremely distinct.
Yeah,
When
it's
you
got
see
its own style.
right, when you see Mad Max on screen, that's Mad Max. And so I think just based off the work that looks like it went into the film, I think it will do well.
And-
But yeah, I
and
think
even-
Tarot is the
Underdog?
underrated, not underdog. I don't think it's going to perform well.
Unknown.
Oh, okay.
Depending on the budget, we have to see. But to me, it's the film that gets glossed over. That might be decent.
It
You know
hasn't
what I
really
mean?
gotten.
I
It
honestly
hasn't
think
gotten
the
a lot of
Strangers
promotion.
one is going to be.
I think that's going to do well as well.
Well, right, but
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the one that, because the Strangers, people are going to be like, oh, I remember the old movie.
Yeah,
Tarot,
for
they're
sure.
they're going to look at it and they're going to say, oh, this is kind of like Ouija, or this is kind of like,
And I was telling
because
Kage, it gave me that vibe,
I
like
was-
Ouija, that film.
I was more so kind of going with my
it
list.
does look interesting though.
Yeah,
Tarot.
not like
I saw the preview.
Furiosa. I got to see that. I absolutely love the first one. In fact, I rewatched it again a couple weeks ago. Mad Max.
Top of the year, it was still
Yeah,
holds
yeah.
up.
So I was like, just to kind of get myself back into it, because I knew this is coming up. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I love the Planet of the Apes movies. I kind of hope this is the last one, because it's been 20-something years now. I'm like, okay, we get it. They took over. That's just my that's just my stance. It's like, like I don't know how you step it up from here. Is it going to be Apes in Space with Dominic Toretto? Like
No,
I don't know.
honestly, I feel like-
so. Yeah, I'm like, okay,
Family.
we get a family of apes that have taken over the world.
I think this is kind of their way to connect the original movies
Yeah.
to
Well-
the ones that they did that were, in all intents and purposes, prequel.
Right.
Because we talked about this in our previous episode when we were talking about prequels versus sequels, and the original Charles
Heston?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think. Is
Yeah,
it Charleston Heston? Or is
might-
it Charles Heston?
I think it's.
I'm
Let's
leaning
do our-
towards
Let's do our
Charleston.
Googles.
I think it's Charleston
Let's-
Heston. But anyway, he did the original ones that were back with like freaking rubber face masks and
Right.
stuff like that. And, but people genuinely enjoyed those movies.
Yeah.
And they had, I think, 3 or 4 Planet of the Apes.
Charlton.
Charlton.
Oh, we were all
Charlton.
We were
Heston.
in the right direction there.
Ah,
but-
Samsonite. That's what this is.
There you go.
We were way off.
Played into it.
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So
Yeah.
what I want to say though is like I'm interested in Furiosa. I almost feel like maybe it would be better in the summer for that one.
A little bit later in the
A little bit
like
later,
July or
but yeah,
something.
but if they want to release it now, heck, I'll watch it. And I'll watch Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I've enjoyed all the other ones, but I'm ready to let it go. That's just my opinion.
You're hoping this one kind of wraps it all
I
together.
really, because it's like they've taken over. We get it. Humanity is like gum on shoe. We get it.
Yeah.
The Strangers Chapter 1. I saw the original one many centuries ago because I'm old. It feels like it was forever ago.
Yeah, I think we said it was like 2007.
People locked in a house in the middle of the woods, and people in masks show up. Not quite the Purge, but kind of the same thing.
It's
in
just
a,
like, what
in
are
a
you
sense,
doing
it's like,
here?
what are you doing here? And then the action picks up.
Yeah.
It seems like a story I've seen before, but still entertaining. I haven't seen that type of thing in a very long time, so I'm open to it. Tarot is no pun intended, the wild card here, because I heard about the premise of it a while ago, months ago, but I was just kind of here or there on it because I didn't have anything to go on. But after I saw a preview, I was like, okay, this looks pretty cool. I didn't get the Ouija comparison. I
So-
more got the 13 Ghosts.
So the reason why I say
Comparison.
Ouija is because, Ouija is a game that you
Yeah.
contact spirits
Yeah,
with.
that's like the real connection there.
Yeah,
Parallel.
with
Well,
tarot cards, they're supposed to be a prediction on your future. They're supposed to be like,
Right,
hey,
but like-
and in the case of this, the only reason why I compare the two is because in some ways people look at Ouija boards and tarot cards
Telling
as
the future.
games.
games. Okay, okay.
So
I'll buy that.
Here's a party
I'll buy
game
that.
you play.
Right,
You're gonna hold
right.
this end of the little Ouija
Planchette.
thing, and then
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna tell your future. Oh, yeah, da 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 da. Because in the thing, they're setting it down as
Right.
they're at a party,
Right.
and the girl is like, oh, ha ha ha, we're gonna do some readings, you
Right.
know, and that's how all these people.
And when
end
they're
up
done
with their-
playing with the tarot cards, their next party game is going to be that white hand that they have sitting on the back shelf. Plot twist.
No, they're gonna do the whole light as a feather. or
Oh
whatever,
no!
the little
Oh
lifting
yeah!
one, or-
The craft.
yeah, still as a board, light as a
Yeah,
feather.
Yes, you guys are just giving me
So-
fuel for movies I'm gonna watch when I get out. But yeah, so like tarot for me, it kind of gives me 13 Ghost vibes because it has all the things on the tarot cards,
Coming to
but
life,
like
yeah.
the Joker, the death or
Yeah,
whatever,
and
It-
supernatural
and
aspects.
and
as well.
with
Yes.
supernatural aspects, and I'm like, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, ooh, like okay, this could be interesting.
interesting, yeah.
I'm interested to see where they go with this. So the tarot cards, I don't want to say come to life, but like the things on the cards are
Yeah.
things to be afraid of.
It's a,
so
it's
I'm
a
like,
cautionary tale.
it's a cautionary tale with paranormal aspects
It's-
sprinkled in.
Most of those movies that you see that are like that are, again, you have like a bunch of drunken teenagers who are like, haha, let's play a game. It's going to be fun. Go stand in the bathroom and look at the mirror and say Bloody Mary 3 times.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like, ha ha ha, this is going to be fun. Let's all get around this table and hold this monkey paw. You know,
Yeah.
ha ha, ha, this is going to be fun. You know, like, it's all in good fun, and then they find out, no, this was real, this is dark, this is dangerous, this
Yeah.
is, all my
I'm-
friends are dead now.
The trailer
Right,
looked like a good time. I
Looks
haven't.
like a teen-driven
I kind of like it.
Yeah, this is why I say it really seems like one of those underrated like horror films that they kind of slip
Yeah.
in there, and then you watch it like, oh, it's Saturday. I thought this was interesting. I'll go check it out. And you're like, oh, that was a decent little film, but gets overshadowed because of the big action.
Exactly, you've got a
names.
lot of
Well,
big
also-
movies.
Also, too, all of these things we mentioned are knowns. Everybody knows about Mad Max. You said it yourself a little bit ago. It's something that's been around 40-something years. Kingdom of the Apes, that's been around since 60s,
years.
70s.
Yeah, 67 years.
Strangers, that came out in the early 2000s. Everybody, but Tarot, that's
Completely
new.
different.
That's
Yeah.
new, and because
If-
it's new,
if
that's
it's
why
new-
it's
Sparks
If
interest.
it's new,
Yep.
Garfield's a repeat.
Garfield's a repeat. Yeah, everything
but
we've
if
just
and-
said is a
if
rehash
and-
of something
if
that's
and
already
Tarot
been.
are the only
If
new
reminds us
content.
of a Pixar film we've seen before.
It does
Not
kinda
quite the
look-
same, but it looks like that. It looks
Because-
like Monsters Inc.
Exactly. It does kind of look like Monsters Inc.
Ye-
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
I'm gonna.
Or Guardians of, or the Guardians, I believe it was, Legend of the Guardians,
Ah,
or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
Whoa,
Yeah.
memory unlocked. Memory unlocked.
Chink.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Kage? You
yeah.
had a thought you might have
I
lost
just-
it
We
there.
kind of overshadowed you there for a second.
It's okay. It's okay.
I mean, he led into it well, though, because then we kind of just piggybacked off what he was saying as far as how these movies line up. Buttons, how do you feel about Fall Guy? I know you said you had some expectations for it, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
also think because they're marketing the pants off this thing that it needs to do extremely well. So what do you think?
As far as what I've seen so far of marketing, I have seen a lot of marketing for If. The other day I was driving by and I saw a poster at the bus stop, you know, big If thing in the bus stop. So they're marketing the heck out of that one. They are marketing Fall Guy, and they have been marketing it for the last couple of months pretty heavily. Now it has a lot of names behind it as far as Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling. Those are both very big names as far as movies that they've done lately, and they've done the circuit. They've been on the TV shows, you know, the talk show hosts. They've done the SNL, you know, opening and all that to promote the movie. You know, Emily Blunt was in the Oppenheimer movie, and Ryan Gosling was in Barbie, and so the joke is, oh yeah, here they just had 2 of the most successful movies from the previous year, and now they're doing this movie, so it's gonna be good because you know, you've got these huge names behind it, and they do great movies. And yeah,
First image.
Yeah.
with this, it's a chick flick, guys. Like, it's an action movie, but it's a chick flick. So don't get your panties in a twist if you go to this movie and you're like,
Thank you
it's a
for
love
pointing
story.
that out.
It's a chick flick. It's a comedy. It's a romantic comedy. All right. It has action. If you have to, if you get drug to this movie by your significant other, just know you're gonna laugh. It's gonna be an action movie, but it's going to focus heavily on the romantic aspect between the two characters. They started out, he is interested in Emily Blunt's character, like in the thing, and then bad things happen to him, she gets drug into it, so it's that kind of movie. It's going to be more of here's an explosion, here's a really cool, he fell off of a building kind of scenes. He's jumping around on jet skis and helicopters, but it's not going to have a whole lot of substance to it. It's a summertime movie, fun, fluffy.
Yeah, it's gonna
kind
be
of.
fun and nothing to think too much
Yeah,
about. It's not
exactly.
Drive, guys, with Ryan Gosling.
I keep getting, this is just my opinion, I keep getting tripped up because people keep saying Fall Guy, Fall Guy, Fall Guy. And I'm like,
And you keep thinking of Free Guy?
I really do, because Free Guy, Ryan Reynolds with a girl, lots of over-the-top action, guy with a girl, lots of over-top action, and then there was a romantic aspect to Free Guy in a sense.
Yeah.
But also,
Well, yeah, he was obsessed. The whole reason why he became conscious is because he was obsessed with the girl.
Yeah, so you need to go back and change the name. It's way too similar. I'm sorry. My ADHD is in fourth gear. Like, I can't, like.
So the budget's $125 million, Buttons. What do you think?
So I think because, again, I said that this movie has got a lot of the explosions and a lot of the effects of practical effects at least I hope they're practical and not CG for everything, but it looks like they're doing more practical effects because it's supposed to be about a stunt man. So you're going to imagine that there's these scenes where he's going to, like I said, fall off of a building or hang off the arm of a helicopter, off one of the landing gear or whatever, or have to dodge through all of these explosives or projectiles or whatever. So I'm thinking that there's going to be a lot of that kind of play in it, and that's where the budget is coming from. There's probably a good portion of it that goes to those top billed actors as well, but for the most part, I think the budget is, hey, they've exploded like 10 cars already,
Right.
and they're gonna explode 10 more in another 30 minutes. Here's a helicopter, maybe the helicopter explodes, I don't know, but I think that's where most of the money is going into, is gonna be the
Explosions.
actual,
Practical
I think the
effects.
budget's
practical effects.
fair.
It's-
125, it's a lot of money, but
It's not
it's not
200.
200.
It's
It's
not
not
200.
250.
Yeah.
So will this movie perform? I don't know. It seems to me that a lot of the movies that we've
I
been
think it's
seeing
gonna be a
recently.
good date night movie.
Yeah, right. A lot of movies that we've been seeing recently, the performance is based on title and not necessarily month. April, there was not really a lot of big titles, and so you saw that in the performance in the box office. March, we had big titles, and not that every movie in March performed well, but the big titles that we saw did perform well.
Right.
So it begs the question, is it the title or is it the month? And I think with May, it's going to be the title. 125 isn't bad, though. I think maybe if they kept it maybe 100, it even makes it easier for them to actually get some money, because like Button said, this could be a date night movie, and from the ratings that I've seen so far, it's looking like a 75 overall, and this is from the online critics, so that tells me that it's probably decent, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if word of mouth picks up, I think this movie could at least do 300 million, and with your budget of 125, you could make that a success.
In order to be a success, to your point, Neff, I think it does need to do about 350 for it to be really marketed as a success. But up against those other names, it might be one of those things where for the month of May, it might not make those numbers. But overall, by the end of the year, it might be sitting around
At a
that.
decent little
Once you get
area.
into the international community and everything else,
right.
all of those extra sales of people who maybe went and saw first. Oh yeah, first I'm gonna go see Garfield. And then maybe I'll go back to the theaters a little later because it's still playing. I'll go watch Fall Guy.
Yeah, I think if they played this perfectly, Fall Guy could work.
It could
Just
work.
keep it simple.
But
Let's not overcomplicate the story. We know what it looks like. Let's play upon that. Let's hope that people see it, like it, and speak for us. Because, like we've said, and you said it, I've been seeing the marketing. It's everywhere. So clearly, the marketing team is working well. And I think, if the marketed team is showing you this much information about this movie, it tells you the studio thinks this movie's going to do well. So we'll see what happens with that. I can't find anything on Furiosa at this point. Nothing on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes on this point. Nothing on Tarot at this point.
for a budget,
Yep, there's nothing on these things. Now, more than likely, we will see the budget the week of release, and so we'll probably talk about these things after, especially you guys, when we watch these films, because we are going to watch a handful of these films. All of us here will be doing reviews on these films,
Yes.
so once we get that information for the budgets, then we'll really go into, okay, this is what it costs, and of course, we'll be able to see the box office, because the movies will be out when we do review them. But yeah, we haven't really found the budget for most of these, so we're not going to go too much into that. Expectations, though, we can speak on that.
yeah.
And then we can kind of speculate like we've done before, like we did with April is Upon Us. We kind of speculated what the budget, what the movie was, and then what we expected to see from it. Let's talk about just some big ones. Let's start with Fall Guy again. Kage, what do you think this does?
100 mil.
So
Maybe-
you think
maybe
it's
more.
not going to really be a success?
Well, it's kind of
'Cause if
it's
if-
catering. Here's the thing: it's catering to a certain audience.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, again, you just said it yourself. The rom-com, action, comedies. Those are pretty more widely accepted. Horror is a narrower audience. Rom-com is going to be a little narrower audience. So it really boils down to, I think, we can debate that in terms of like when it comes out, when it would do better. Maybe in the holidays, or something.
I think this may release
maybe.
a solid for it.
Yeah, I
Just
feel
from
like
the
it's-
look of the film. And
Yeah.
if you haven't seen the trailer,
I've
watch
seen
the
the
trailer.
trailers.
Oh, okay.
I've
so
seen the trailers.
yeah, I see what you're saying with it's specifically like when it should come out, but I think the way it's shot, it looks like a summer film.
It
Like
does
if this
look
came
like
out in November, I don't think it would fit.
Okay.
Just the time period. Just like how I was saying, like Dune doesn't feel like it should come out in March.
And
like
even-
Dune
and
feels like
even-
something like September, October. Like it
And
just has
even
that
like
feel.
February, it's not a romantic, like a
Yeah,
hardcore
it looks like a
romantic.
summer
it
thing.
looks summery.
Yeah.
Because there is a heavy romance element to it, but it's not like usually Valentine's Day you're looking for straight comedy, not action comedy.
Right. Good point. Good point.
So I mean, you're wanting something that's more.
Like,
Valentine's Day, you want to see like Sleepless in Seattle.
Well,
I've seen.
That's kind of
yeah.
a sad
I've seen
movie, but it's
yeah.
great. It's
couples-
more
You've
set
got
in
mail.
realism.
You want to see you've
Yeah,
got
it's set
mail.
in
You wanna
realism.
see-
Well,
It's
well,
like-
hold on though. Hold on. I used to work in a movie theater, so I can speak on that. Rom-coms typically do pretty well as well because you got the couples that are like
Well,
they
no, we're
want
not-
they want to see
Well,
a romantic comedy,
Yeah.
and the ones that have been
Correct.
who've been a couple for a long
Correct.
time and they want to see something a little
Correct.
bit more serious.
Right, but that's why we're
somber.
saying this
So it's-
shouldn't come out in February.
Because this
as
is-
we're saying what you're saying makes sense to come out in February because it's more centered in like a real life. Like there's not cars blowing up in February and a
Yeah,
rom-com.
fair.
Like,
That's what I'm
So
saying, yeah.
what you're saying is what we're saying basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're agreeing with you on the sense that,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
rom-coms do great in February. But in this case, it's not just a rom-com, it's also an action movie.
Yeah.
So
Probably
again,
more action
The
than
the
romantic
action,
comedy.
Just
the
like-
action aspect is what's going to bring people in.
Yep.
Just like to be fair, because, we're going to talk about my favorite movie, Argyle. And with that one, there was a heavy romance element. It was
Get
in the
out.
second half of the family. It was in the second half of the movie, but, it had it in there.
As I was watching it, good point. As I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, until we got to the tie-dye dance scene, I said, this would be, I said to me, this is a movie that works just for a date night.
Right.
And then it got too goofy, and I was like, now I'm out of it. But to me, on its face, it was looking like, oh, I could see someone being like, hey, want to go see Argyle in theater, and it's Friday night, like, and
Yeah.
you don't think too much about it, right? But obviously the movie progressed in a
I got
different way.
bamboozled,
but-
man.
Yeah.
Come on, Neff. I went to the
Bait and
theater. I saw a
switch,
full,
baby.
I saw a full star cast.
Hook, line, and sinker.
They got me. They got me. I want my money back.
What if you're watching Ungentlemanly Warfare and then Henry Cavill busts out a cartwheel?
I'd be rooting for the Nazis. No, okay, that's the one time I'll ever say that. You just got me saying that on. You just got me saying that on mic. I do not approve
Kage
of that.
is not anti-Semitic.
He is not. He is not. No. Just Argyle.
Disclaimer.
Dumpster fire. Disclaimer.
So I think
God, I
it could
hate
do-
that movie.
I think Fall Guy could do 180.
Yeah,
I don't think it's actually going to be a success. Now, if it is a success, I'm not going to say I'm going to be super surprised by it, unless it's like crazy numbers, like 600 million. Then I'll be like, really? Like,
Yeah.
I
interesting.
feel like
What do you think, Vice?
at the end of the year we're gonna see it sitting around 350. I feel like that. I feel like it's got enough
think that's
momentum
realistic.
and star power that it's gonna sit around 350,
But
maybe
here's-
400.
here's the-
but for May you're not gonna see that number.
Here's the thing.
May.
Like
September, October.
Yeah.
I haven't, and this is subjective totally. I haven't seen too many Emily Blunt movies or Ryan Gosling movies. I just haven't seen them. I've seen right for the past 10+ years.
You've seen A Quiet Place?
I've seen that.
Okay, that's
But-
Emily Blunt.
But like it's like a different take on her films. I guess are you saying you haven't seen
I'm
her
just
in,
not seeing
in
her.
general, or
I'm
like
just
in
not
an
seeing her
action
in a
film?
lot of stuff. Period.
Oh yeah, she's in a lot of stuff.
She's in a
Did she-
lot of
Did
stuff.
she edge it tomorrow?
She edged it
That,
tomorrow.
how many years ago
That's-
was that?
That is true.
That's what I'm
Well,
talking
Quiet
about.
Place is only a couple
2012.
years back.
2012, I think.
Quiet
was
Place
Edge of
2?
Tomorrow.
That
Right.
was 2000.
She also
what?
did Into the
21?
Woods, which again, that's a
Never.
musical. You're never going to see that.
you ain't
She
seen
did
that.
Mary Poppins. That again, that's a kids movie. You've probably never seen.
She's
that.
kinda rangy,
she
honestly.
Did, yeah, she does mute.
A lot of different things.
The first time I remember
I saw her
seeing
in the
Ellen-
Day After Tomorrow, or Day After Tomorrow. That's a different movie.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. I've seen her in Edge of Tomorrow. I remember that.
the first time I remember seeing her in was The Devil Wears Prada.
Definitely haven't seen that. There, yeah, I just haven't seen her in a lot of stuff recently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like very.
She was in
it's very
Oppenheimer.
sporadic. I didn't. I haven't seen that one.
I know, but I'm just saying, like,
but-
it's not that she's
she
not
she
doing
is yeah
work.
she's
Yeah,
around,
yeah, she's doing
for sure.
she's doing stuff, and like this is why I said subjective because it really depends on your genre, what you're into. I just haven't really seen her in much that I'm caring about, and I off the top of my head, I know who Ryan Gosling is, but I can't tell you something I've seen him in.
Did you see Gray Man?
No.
You didn't see Drive, right? You haven't seen Drive?
That's vaguely familiar. I feel like
He
it's
has like the
something
jacket with the scorpion on the back.
I think I've seen it a long time
I
ago.
like that movie a lot. Ryan Gosling's been in a lot of stuff,
Like
and
the-
I'm forgetting a
When
lot
you
of
say
stuff
Ryan
he's been
Gosling,
in.
the first thing that comes to my mind is Barbie, and I did not and will not see that. I
He's
just
in
have no.
Barbie.
I have
he's
no
in
interest
La
in
La
seeing that.
Land.
So let me just give you an idea for Emily Blunt real quick because I looked her up. She's got a lot of range. She doesn't get typecast in a lot of things, but I'm just going to run through some of the bigger titles that you may have heard of, even if you didn't see the movie.
Okay.
So obviously, A Quiet Place, Oppenheimer, Devil Wears Prada, Edge of Tomorrow, Jungle Cruise with Dwayne Johnson. So
Rock.
Disney.
Oh,
so,
that.
Yeah, Pain Hustlers, which I think that one was on Netflix. Sicario. Sicario is a
Yep,
big
she is in
action.
Sicario. And you need to
Looper,
watch
The
that.
Girl on the Train, which is kind of like a suspense
Hmm.
kind of movie. She did Mary Poppins Returns, which again, Disney. Huntsman, Adjustment Bureau with Matt Damon. Apparently she might also be in If. Maybe she's like a voice actor in that. Into the Woods was the musical that I was talking about. She's done other things like Charlie Wilson's War,
Okay.
Wild Mountain Time, which I've seen that one. That one's pure chick flick, by the way, guys. But she's been in stuff going all the way back to My Summer of Love back in 2004. That looks like some of her. Oh, I love Sunshine Cleaning. I saw that one. That one's more of an artistic, like Sundance film, festival film. But yeah, she's got. She did the Romeo and Juliet movies, those animated ones. So I mean,
Has she done any A24? Because
I don't think so, but I
she
could
was
see her
in-
actually doing something like that eventually.
Yeah,
I feel like
done
she's
horror
somebody
movies.
who would do well.
Yeah, she's done horror
And
She,
movies.
yeah,
So
she got range,
yeah, like that's what I'm
Respect.
saying.
and she's English, but she changes her voice a lot, so she
Yeah,
has that ability too.
Yeah, she's
Range.
'Cause in
That's what
Sicar-
range is.
So, yeah,
is be
so
able
in
to.
Sicario,
Yeah.
like
well,
she speaks as
range
like an
for
American.
an actor. Range for an actor. I'm talking more along the lines of she doesn't get typecasted into
Yeah,
one type
correct.
of role.
She could
She'll
do
do kids movies. She'll do
anything,
action
yeah.
movies. She'll do horror movies. She'll do
Artsy movies.
you know
Yeah.
artsy movies. So she'll do
I mean, that's awesome that
romantic
she
comedy.
has that range.
She'll do.
I think
everything
you'd
that
really like Edge of Tomorrow, dude.
Yeah.
I've seen Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh, but you don't remember her in it?
No, I remember.
Oh,
I
okay.
know that is the thing that screams in my brain. That's like
Yeah.
forefront of my brain. I know that. Heck, I watched it again a month ago, actually.
Yeah, he was just saying he can't think of a lot
Yeah,
of
if it's
movies.
something that she's been in like recently that really sticks out that he's interested in, which makes sense.
Yeah, Quiet Place. I
yeah.
know she's in that, but I'm like,
And-
Chris
and-
Pratt. I know about Chris Pratt for the past 10 years because he's been
yeah,
in Marvel and
obviously,
like he's
yeah.
been that has
Forefront.
kept me.
Multiple-
Yeah, in my mind,
multiple movies.
I have not
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
her
big
in a
stuff,
lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
at least that I
That movies
I
that
care
you were
about.
interested
That I'm
in,
interested.
yeah.
Yeah.
it
Because
makes
she's
sense.
again, like I was saying, she's done a lot of other kids.
Of what
movies
I've
and
watched
stuff
her
like
in,
that,
it's
too.
been good.
Yeah,
It's been good.
What was I gonna say here? As far as Furiosa, what do you think? To me, it looks like about 200 million,
Yeah, I'm agreeing.
180, 200.
I feel like Furiosa. You know,
I
they
think
put
that
Anna
movie's
Taylor
gonna. I think
Joy
that
in
movie's
there
gonna do
thinking
450 million.
Yeah, I think at the most, I think that one's going to get to 300.
I think because it's not
For
I think
May?
450.
For
I think
May?
because Max isn't in it. I think that's a selling point. It's like making Spider-Man and then talking about Mary Jane.
because of where it falls and all
I
the
can see that.
competition for May, I think it's going to fall in like
And
a
Spider-Man ain't in it. It's a Mary Jane Spider-Man saga. Like
Yeah.
you know what
Well,
I mean? They'd be
that-
where's Tony?
Not to go too far off topic, but that was like the rumored Spawn reboot that's been in development hell for 10, 20 plus years now. That supposedly Todd McFarlane is working on, and he had Jamie Foxx, I think, attached to
yeah,
it. But then
as
they
Spawn.
said, get this, they said it's a Spawn movie, but Spawn is not in it.
no.
Yeah. Spawn is like a boogeyman. So if you know anything about Spawn, there's two detectives that are following the aftermath of things
So it's
that
like their
Spawn
viewpoint.
does. It's their viewpoint, and Spawn is in it, but he's kind of like the boogeyman. You've seen things he's done. You see him in the shadows. You see evidence of a crime or some
aftermath.
the
I think that could
aftermath.
work, though.
You know, but he's not He's not primarily in the
Yeah,
film. So
yeah.
this
like
kind of
Seven.
reminds me.
It's like you just see all the resulting.
Well, no,
factors
no,
of
no,
it.
well,
You may
this
even
is-
see him in the
shadows.
shadows, but it's
Spawn
not
Spawn
focused
is
on
like
him.
how they're pitching this film, supposedly, if it is being made, is like he is the boogeyman. He's not like the 1997 Michael J. White. You see him. He's constantly on screen. He's like, it's more. The story is about his world, not so much Spawn. He's
Gotcha.
in it. He's kind of in the background and stuff like that. So I'm interested to see if this is like
Yeah, so
that.
I mean, Furiosa, I feel like, if it's lucky for the month of May anyway, it'll be lucky to break 50 million.
What do you mean? What do you mean, Furiosa?
For
50 million
Fu-
what?
for box office for Furiosa, I feel like
Lucky to break $50 million?
I think-
in the month of May.
Oh no, I think it's doing more than that. Easily.
now,
well,
I'm not
now
saying-
it's the end of May though, so you can't really count it like that because it's only 1 week.
Yeah,
to look at it.
that's
But
true.
I think this movie initially, like opening week, like I said, we don't know the budget, so it's
Yeah.
the budget kind of tells me a lot. Like I can kind of just be like, okay, I think this is gonna happen, and typically we are spot on. There are some things that kind of, it's like, oh, we didn't really see that coming, or the movie doesn't it's not what we thought it was, and so it affects that box office. But I think honestly, and I see what you're saying there. You're saying May first week numbers. I think first week numbers, $120.
Really?
Yeah, $120 first week. Just because of, like we said, Mad Max is something that's been around for 40 years. You don't really have to sell it much. Like I said, what you're selling is Anna Taylor-Joy now.
So
As
it's worth
Furiosa.
noting
Correct.
too, this is all we have to go on. Let's see here. We got the Mad Max film that came out in 2015, Mad Max Fury Road.
Right.
And at the time, that had a budget of 154 to 185 million and a box office of 380. Okay.
So that's what I'm saying, is I mean,
And
even
that
if you
and that
factor
came
in
out
inflation.
and that came out in
Yeah,
May.
Good point.
That came
Yeah,
out
that was
in
2015.
that came out in May.
Pretty
So
solid
we're
name.
gonna see
Yeah.
what we're gonna do, because we're gonna be in the desert. We're gonna see
Yeah.
explosions.
And
As far as
because
big
it's
stars, we have Anna
focused
Taylor
on
Joy.
her,
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris
it's focused
Hemsworth.
on her though, so I mean, you could run into the
It
situation
just might do
where
what this did. We're just
Yeah.
caps it like 350.
Yeah.
300, like it could just cap. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean the movie's not good, but hey, maybe
that's your audience.
maybe that audience is not what we thought to get it to
Yeah.
those levels.
Whoa! Wait a minute! Wait! So,
What you got?
oh wait, no, never mind. I was gonna say. So, Mad Max Fury Road had quite a cast. Tom
Oh, yeah, it had a
Hardy,
really good
Charlize
cast.
Theron. Who else? Zoe Kravitz was on there.
Yes, she was.
Yeah, she was one of the women
She's the
wives
special
or
women.
whatever.
Yeah. You're
Wives
right.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
You're right.
So I mean, it's not a lot
I
of
think
these
you.
movies.
I think you got a good projection there, though.
Yeah.
When
mean,
I actually look like Kage good research, when you actually bring up the numbers that Fury Road did, now we can kind of make a comparison to what we think.
Because when you're
This
dealing
will
with
be.
a sequel, that's
and this is
that's-
a prequel, so
well, sequel, prequel. You kind of this is all you have to base it on. When you're a movie like Tarot, we don't have anything
Correct.
to base it on. We can kind of pick and choose and say I can look up the budget of Ouija or 13 Ghosts, which is kind of has a cult following nowadays. Maybe we can say that, but
But horror movies have traditionally never one has never performed the same as another, and especially when you're talking about
Unless it's like in a series.
Yeah, unless it's in a series. Like then
well, this
you could
is
make the
again, this is a
argument-
wild card because it's
Yeah.
Right, 'cause
it's its
on-
own thing.
Exactly, it's a standalone thing. But that's what I mean. Is like you can pick one movie that's about a supernatural, occurrence, like you were saying, like Ouija, or what was the one
13
that?
Ghosts?
No,
13
what was
Ghosts.
the one with the hand?
Talk
Talk
to
to
me.
me.
Talk to me. So you could sit there and you could compare those and say, okay, here's the same kind of situation. They're party games, they're playing around, talk to me, Ouija, see how those two performed, and make a prediction based off of another movie that's a party game, then, the kids start dying or whatever, supernatural, spiritual,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, occurrence are going down. How did those two movies perform? When were they released? It's too many variables with horror movies.
Yeah, we
because
tried
they
to
get
do that with
released-
Omen, and it
Yeah,
it
True.
just didn't
the
go
numbers,
like how
the
we
numbers
thought,
didn't
really.
go the way you did, because again, I'm sure there's tons of
Well,
people who have seen
yeah,
the other
we're
Omen
gonna-
movies and all
We're
that.
gonna
It
have to
just-
see. Like it's always kind of up there when horror movies come out throughout the year versus just lumping them in Halloween. That would be too easy.
Too
Yeah.
easy.
That would be too easy because I feel like their budgets would be higher
And
if
then
they
there's going to
released
be
in
one
Halloween.
big title that has October slated out, and it's going to crush you because it's the title. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
It's like, why would I go see this one when I
When
could
I
go
have
see that
this,
one?
especially if
Yeah.
it has history behind it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
Yeah, so we'll
What do
see.
you think about Tarot, though? What do you think about the budget based off the trailer? What do you think?
Man,
10, 15 mil?
I'm thinking the budget probably is about 10, 15 mil.
I'd
What do you think it does, Kage?
I'd probably 20-ish, 20-ish, because I didn't recognize any of the cast, but I did
You're not
see,
going
but I
to,
did
yeah.
see a lot of effects, because you're going to be seeing twitching monsters running at you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I keep saying it over and over again. 13 Ghosts, you have 13 actors wearing prosthetics, and they're flying, and they're moving around, they're bloody, they have
A lot of moving parts.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of moving parts. And then, of course, you have the actors, and they're not the money for 13 Ghosts. I mean, the actors at the time, the only two actors is Tony Shalhoub or whatever, and then Shannon Elizabeth. Those are the only two people that I recognize. Your budget mostly went into all the effects of that.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is probably the most comparable thing, having all these monsters that are killing people off one by one, and they come from the cards.
Yeah.
You know,
know what I
You know
mean?
what it does kind of remind me though of as House on Haunted Hill, like in terms of
I can
the
see that.
the different characters involved, and they pop up randomly because most horror movies, they've got one bad guy.
Correct.
You got Freddy, you got Jason, you got, Mike Myers. If it's an off-brand, one, it's one monster. Now, the other one that was, and we talked about this movie earlier in the year, which was Night Swim, where you had a ton of different characters pop up, as far as the ghost spirits or whatever you want to say. But you wanted to know, because you're like, wait a minute, that wasn't the same girl that was standing above the water, or the guy that was all bloated and looked like he'd been, drowned for like a long period of time. And so like you had multiple different ghosts or apparitions. And that's what makes this one interesting to me too. From seeing the trailers, I'm like, oh, it's not just one boogeyman chasing them. It's, this one's going to be a different character.
Yeah, after
They're
this
gonna
chat, I'm
run
actually
with
more
different
interested in
rules.
this movie. I might have to go watch it. Thanks, guys.
So,
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
so I think
180 million budget.
I think, like I said, my prediction anyway is this is going to be one that crushes
all
the box
CG.
office.
I mean, it
Well,
has to be monkey people riding horses.
The previous ones were all
Never
CG
got into
too.
Planet of the Apes just because of that.
Well, I mean,
It's just very odd to me. Like,
you watched
like
The
it.
Lion
I'm just
King.
not into that.
That was
yeah,
all
Lion
CG.
King is different. No, I'm saying like the idea of having like CG monkeys riding horses is very odd to me. It's just weird. Like, and they shoot guns and talk.
But
like,
I'm telling you, it works. All right, listen.
it's been very successful,
is-
but I just can't get into
I
it.
will
I've
defend-
seen
listen.
a monkey on a horse before.
I've seen things, you guys. There's. I might.
Ride that tricycle.
Oh, nice.
But
With
it's
the hat.
yes, he has to have the hat just to
What were you
complete
saying,
it.
Kage?
No, I was just saying, like Buttons is like putting her flag on the ground in our group here, defending Argyle. But I got to defend Kingdom of the Apes.
Spirit book.
Like just Planet of the Apes. It's just good entertainment. It's just good sci-fi. It's not blowing my doors down, but I'm like, I like it.
interesting.
I buy it. I want to see more. But
Are you
we're
gonna
on
watch this one for sure?
we're on 4 movies. I've committed. I've
Okay.
seen the other. I've seen the other 3. I gotta see it.
Fast
Let's
X.
go. But
gotta
listen.
finish
But
this.
I gotta finish it. But
20X.
like this is my cutoff. This is my cutoff. In 5 years from now, I better
Drawing
not
the
see
line.
another one. Oh no, they've discovered space trout. I'm like,
Oh no.
are you fucking kidding me? Like
Technically-
I just don't care anymore because
The Mark Wahlberg version.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because like okay, I mean, summing it up, I might butcher this, but like you have humanity and guys running experiment on monkeys to cure Alzheimer's, and he accidentally figures out a way it makes them smart. It makes monkeys
They're
smart,
super
and
intelligent
then
now.
that monkey Caesar teaches the other how to do sign language, and then they have that dramatic moment where he's like stop or no,
He
like
said no.
that. He said no to he said no to Draco Malfoy. So
Damn it, Draco.
yeah, because this was after that was after the Harry Potter movies.
Right.
Yeah.
But he said no like that, and the whole theater was like whoa.
Well, yeah.
Well,
because,
that was
yeah.
a defining moment, and so
Because
and so
they set
then
this up as, like, again, it's a prequel to the Planet of the Apes. So in the Planet of the Apes movies, they could talk like humans.
Well, I'm
like,
just saying-
But they
I'm just-
never explained how
right,
they
right,
got
right.
to that
So
point.
like that first movie was that. Then the second movie, okay, it's well established now. We've already explained how this started. Okay, now we're gonna show them fighting, and then throughout the movies, it shows humanity is like definitely
the battle.
losing. They're definitely hiding, sneaking around. No pun intended. Guerrilla warfare. They're the humans are doing that, and they're like, okay, we got to get power, but they own the power station. They don't know how to use the power, and they're like, well, if you let us live, we'll fix the power station, but you got to do something for us. And Caesar is taking care of the humans. He welcomes them into his kingdom, so to speak, and all the other apes are looking at him like ready to kill at any moment. And he's like, no, these are good ones. And unfortunately, the movie ends with humans opening fire on the apes, and the ape and Caesar and the guy, they kind of shake hands with tears in their eyes, knowing that peace is no longer an option.
No more
it's
treaty.
it's done. The next time we see you, we'll be killing each other. That type
Wow.
thing. So so Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I'm ready to say goodbye. I want to see this.
How do you think it performs? 700. 800. I feel like 800 million is so like far away now from like movies performance.
I don't
like. I feel like
think-
that's like the 800 million is now the new billion.
I think
Like
because
billion
of
used to be
the-
like, dang, it has to be really
I don't.
good.
So
Think
oh,
of the gap. If this had come out right after the previous Apes movies, I think it would
okay,
have performed
I would
better.
agree with that.
I think this one
Too much
now
time
it
in
could
between.
help it actually because people are gonna say, well, this isn't another. Yeah, it's a Kingdom of the Apes movie, but they might be like, oh yeah, I remember those movies. Those were good movies. This is gonna
They
be a
could
good
cross
movie.
market
Can
the
I
heck out of this.
Can I just put a side note here? We are so comfortable. The three of us are so comfortable saying "Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes" over and over again, but ungentlemanly warfare,
Yeah.
that's too much. And by the way, the
Ministry
ministry
of
of
Ungentlemanly
the ministry of
warfare.
ungentlemanly warfare is the short version, as
Correct.
Neff pointed out on a prior episode, where he said it's based on a book by every letter in the English dictionary,
Yeah,
like
dude.
every word. I'm like, I'm dude. I checked out 3 words ago.
Yeah.
Okay, my ADHD only allows so much, so you're gonna have to
Yeah.
nip that in the bud a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's why we just call it ministry. Boom.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
ungentlemanly.
You know,
warfare.
so Apes movie.
Yeah. Yeah, keep it short.
You know,
Apes.
but I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
Interesting. Yeah, we're gonna have to review that for sure.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah,
see. I
definitely.
want to see after you actually watch it how you really feel. Like, okay,
Do I
because
want another
like
one or
right,
am I
because
done?
you're going in, you're like, okay, and it's kind of hard to sway because you've kind of already made your mind up. Like, I get it now. It's like how we talked about
Yeah.
Godzilla and Kong. It's like, okay, we get it. It does well, that's fine, but okay. So I wonder how you're gonna feel actually after watching it and see if they leave it open.
Yeah.
Or
Like,
they
I mean,
just say,
talk
hey,
about
it
your
goes
Saw
straight
movies.
into the other film. So
Oh
it's
my
almost
God.
like The Omen, where it ends and then it's like, okay, now The Omen. Like, you know what I mean? And,
And
you don't need
that would
anything
be-
else because it buttons
That
it up.
would be a good way for them to finish the franchise,
Yeah.
is to just directly tie it
Yeah.
to the original Planet of the Apes, to where they can be like, oh, we see now the connection
Yeah.
of how, you know, like the first movies that were done with Charlton Heston, as we established, you know, you had those films, and then, you know, then when they relaunched it with the Planet of the Apes movies, they had made it a modern day time frame of before anything happened. Like Kage was saying, you know, they were doing the experiments for Alzheimer's treatment on the apes, and that was how it evolved into this plague
Right.
that wiped out a good portion of humanity. And then, of course, you know, then the apes start to populate and, you know, thrive in the world, and then it's a war.
Yeah.
And with this, it's set, I can't remember, at least
I
20
don't know
years,
the
100
details.
years. It seems like it was a couple of generations at least, from when those movies ended and when this movie is supposed to take place. So basically they explain it as, here's this girl, she knows things, and that's why people are scared of her, because she's intelligent. She's super intelligent. And the apes had kind of written off humans as no longer being super intelligent because their society kind of, you know, through the war and
Deteriorated.
had deteriorated and kind of reversed.
So-
And that's what's the interesting part of it.
Dynamic of it.
Yeah, is that you have, you know, because in the original movies, you had humans being slaves and or treated like pets to the apes that ruled everything. And, you know, it's just completely unfathomable to believe that humans can be anything more than these slaves.
No way, we're the top of the food chain.
Exactly.
So how dare you show that dynamic?
Right.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say, Kage?
Well, no, I was just gonna say, for anyone out there that's a fan of the Planet of the Apes movies, I was just kind of looking to see where people can catch up if they haven't seen these movies in a long time. So, Rise of the Planet of the Apes is currently on Hulu, Sling, YouTube TV. It's not on any other streaming service. I find it odd that the first movie, if we're talking about the remakes, that is, War for Planet of the Apes, on the other hand, that is on Hulu, YouTube, Amazon Prime Video, Yeah, it's on there. And then, of course, we have Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which is on Max, Hulu, Amazon Prime. So you can watch 2 out of the 3 movies
Pretty easily.
pretty easily. I don't have Sling, so I'm going to have to watch that movie somewhere else. Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Another
I don't
good-
have Hulu anymore. Crap.
Another good place to check, just, I've typically noticed that whenever you have these movies come back around, a lot of the times Redbox will pick them up as well. Put them back into, those kiosks.
Yep.
Yep. So if you are particularly one of those people, I know I'm definitely one of those people, I like to go back, especially if there's been a big space of time in between movie releases.
Yeah.
And rewatch the series. I didn't do it for Insidious, before I watched Red Door. But my boyfriend, he had not seen them, so I was like, here's an opportunity, because we found them and we're like, all right, here's
Yeah.
the first chapter, and that way you kind of can go through it. Because even though we had seen the last one, he hadn't seen the previous ones, and so he's like, oh, now things make
Well,
What
I
do you
would-
think of 3?
we
or
haven't
it's
gone
actually
that
a
far.
prequel?
We haven't gone that far. We just watched
One of the best ones.
Well,
just watched the first
I was just gonna say, like, in terms of Insidious, I think that's the one, like, one of those franchises that you can be forgiven for not watching it in order, because it does jump around quite a bit. Because you have the first one, then you have the second one, but the second one tells the story of how Josh
father, yeah.
got how this whole
Right.
thing started, and it's like, okay, if you would have had that 1 and 2, I would have been good. But then plot twist, they gave us 3.
Right.
Which
is the prequel to all the events.
the prequel to
Right.
all the events. You find about the history of Elise,
Right.
and I'm like, okay, then it got weird, but all the movies are still entertaining.
And
I-
then 4 comes out, and you're like, wait a minute, now we're going back to the original timeline.
Yeah, but I will say, with the most recent Insidious, I love that they brought back all of the actors. We
great.
got to see Dalton grown up, going from little
older
kid
age,
and older
continuity.
age,
Right,
continuity. Yes. If
We
you're
love
gonna
it.
hit me with sequels, give me continuity.
Yeah,
I
that was
hate it
good.
when you give me a sequel and you replace it. As soon as you replace an actor, it's just like you kind of docked some points. It's like going to see a band and they have a new singer.
Yeah,
You,
it's
you
off.
know what I mean? As soon as you change the front man, it's
yeah.
just like, you sound good, but you're not as good as what I was
doing mental
introduced
You're not
to.
what I'm
gymnastics to
expecting.
accept it.
Yeah. So
Brendan Fraser, okay, this is great, wonderful.
Tom Cruise
Now-
in The
now
Mummy?
what
Even-
happened?
Wow.
Yeah, even with that too. But remember, they switched out his wife.
Yeah, they replaced,
yeah, I forgot about
gosh,
that.
what is her
And this
name?
was, I
Rachel
think, the
Weisz?
third
Yes,
one.
Rachel Weisz.
I think the third one is when they
Yes.
switched it, and that was the one
But
with
they
Jet
didn't.
Li.
They didn't
Yeah.
even find somebody who even
Looked
remotely
like her.
liked
They
her.
couldn't do it.
They were
Exactly.
like, oh, she's
And she was an
very
intricate part of 1 and 2.
Egyptian-looking. Yeah, she's a very Egyptian looking, and then all of a sudden she's blonde hair. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Like, couldn't you have found somebody who at
They
least
they weren't even
would've
scraping the
passed?
bottom of the barrel to try to find somebody to remotely. They just couldn't do it, and that's a shame, because that was like, I hate to say it, kind of the end of Brendan Fraser's career for a while. That was the last thing
Until
he
his
did.
resurgence with The Whale.
Yeah.
Right. But it's
Well,
just like,
yeah, he did.
He
He's done.
was in
he's
the film that we talked about.
He's making
Killers
a-
of the Flower Moon.
he's
Yeah,
making a
yeah.
comeback. He's making a
making a
comeback. So
comeback,
good
yeah.
for him.
He's taking a different angle to his acting now, where it's really like The Mummy's very interesting. That's almost like an
Mummy's
action
comedy,
comedy
yeah,
too.
it's an action
But
comedy.
Brendan Fraser to me is really getting into the art of acting now.
To be-
where
to
it's like
be
he's not
honest,
in these
he-
jokey movies.
And
no
it-
more.
and- yeah,
he's
but
like
it-
he's like
Pratt.
method acting now.
He was
Yeah,
Chris
it's
Pratt
working.
before.
It's working for him.
He was Chris
So
Pratt
so yeah. So
Good
like,
example.
mad props to Brendan Fraser. But like, I'm just saying,
That's a
isn't
good
that a
example.
shame that the height of your career as an actor, he was known for that. For being in The Mummy. And the last Mummy movie he was in, people loved his movies. They couldn't even get him his co-star.
Yeah,
And so he had to act, because they had
right,
good,
contractual.
No, she
that-
was pregnant.
That'll do it.
that'll do it.
Yeah, I
We've-
want to say
we've seen that in
I wa-
movies before where someone was pregnant. Some people have filmed being pregnant and they figure a way around it.
Wonder Woman.
but-
Wonder Woman.
Gal
Yeah,
Gadot
Gal
was
But that was
Gadot.
like early stages
Correct.
pregnancy, so
Yeah.
she was able to
A
get
lot
away with it.
easier
But
to
you
conceal.
watch her
They-
flipping
they-
around,
they-
flying, and
They
it's like,
filmed filmed certain parts only from here up, and then, you know,
Good, that's
they
just-
put in things to make it
So they
look
can
to
do
where this
that,
is
but
super
we had
awkward,
the
you know?
CG Henry Cavill's mustache.
Oh, the whole
Yeah.
bottom half of
It
his
looks so
jaw. What? Man, that was a great episode. We touched everything here. I think the big movies that we're talking about, box office expectations, we really focused on and hit. Like I said, we got The Strangers in there as well. Once again, that's kind of like the tarot, I guess,
not gonna do a
category
lot
as
of numbers.
well, where you know, you kind of look at it from that horror aspect. So once
Yeah.
again, with The Strangers, I don't think it's going to be an expensive movie either. I think it's going to be maybe 15, 20 million as well, like we said there. And we'll see what that does as well. And then we talked about Garfield as well. I think it will do decent.
Garfield's got a big budget.
Yep, gonna do
I would
decent.
think kids' movies tend to do pretty well.
Oh yeah. And then If. So
If
yeah.
I think also probably has a pretty big budget.
Imaginary
End of-
Friend.
I think you're gonna have two forefront, you know, or forerunners, I should say. There's gonna be a kids movie because all the kids are getting out for summer.
Yep.
So there's gonna be a kids movie that's gonna do some numbers. I'm leaning a little bit more towards If. And then you're gonna have one of these other big name movies. It's either gonna be Planet of the Apes or it's gonna be The Fall Guy. Those are just my two predictions. I personally think it's gonna be the Planet of the Apes movie.
I agree. You agree with that? Kage?
Furiosa,
I'm-
I think is gonna,
Right.
it's gonna bring in a
Box office.
different
Right
audience.
now-
It's gonna do its own numbers.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's gonna be close to.
Too niche.
Yeah.
I was
think-
gonna say, like, as far as May is concerned, my money is on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes or Furiosa, because even though that hasn't been around in a long time, I've heard a lot of my friends talking about it. Oh, it's back! It's
Yeah,
back!
they're excited.
Let's go! I don't care how absurd, how ridiculous the story is. It's back.
Yeah, good points. Yeah, I think we made some really good points there, guys. And you know, anybody that's listening, if you haven't heard anything about anything in May coming up, I think we kind of had the list and the rundown there, so you guys are now informed. Let us know in the comments if there's any films and titles that you are finding interesting that we even spoke on. Maybe there might be something else we didn't speak on, because there is
Absolutely.
a long list and there's a lot of movies coming out in May.
What are you gonna go see?
Right, streaming and in theaters. So yeah, you know, comment that down below, like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and share with a friend. This is Neff signing off.
With Kage.
And buttons.
Be safe.